I absolutely love Stephen Miller, one of Trump's top advisors. I love Stephen Miller because he scares the hose. And he looks like he's the evil vizier out of a live-action Aladdin remake. And I really approve of that. That kind of evil villain physiognomy. Especially when he's actually doing the right thing. The right thing in this case is deporting every illegal immigrant he can get his hands on, or metaphorically throttling every journalist who crosses his path. Because, I'm sure you're all aware, if there's one thing I'm not a huge fan of, it's journalists. They've been unkind to me, let's say, and lots of people that I'm friends with and think well of. And so watching Stephen Miller grill them is one of my favourite things in the world. But just a quick backstory on Stephen Miller. He's been a right-wing lunatic forever. This is an article that he wrote for his high school paper called Political Correctness is Out of Control, in which he basically says everything that we're saying now, but 25 years ago. And so he's been this way since, as far as anyone can remember. I mean, this is his high school yearbook picture. There can be no 50-50 Americanism in this country. There is room here only for 100% Americanism, only for those who are Americans and nothing else, Theodore Roosevelt. Like, that is an insane level of commitment to the illegals are going home, and if you come to America, you are just an American, end of story. And he has just had this monomaniacal, I mean, Russians with attitude here, say, look, like, the only individual in Trump's administration I find fascinating on a personal level is Stephen Miller. I totally agree with this. Total monomania. Doesn't care about anything other than deporting foreigners, man on a mission, right? And from the New Yorker here, she spoke to Miller regularly. This is emotional stuff for him. In conversations about H-1B visas, he was talking so passionately that he actually wept. Like, it sounds like something out of a Greek play, doesn't it? Like, that is incredible. To have that Trump has got guys who have, and apparently Stephen Miller was just literally, the Guardian one was complaining. He was just like, no, we just want lawyers with total fealty to President Trump. And what's the total fealty for? Deporting every illegal. Like, it's Graham, gone. God, we need more. We need so many more gone. And another thing that I would particularly like I said at the beginning, is Miller's justified hatred of journalists. He is utterly unforgiving, scathing, and his Twitter feed is just non-stop this. So, as you can see here, the Associated Press, in a White House meeting with Trump, El Salvador's president says he won't release wrongly deported Maryland man back to US. Yeah, what are the odds that he's a Maryland man? As Stephen points out, the leftist media despises you and the truth. An illegal alien gang member and citizen of El Salvador is not a Maryland man. And when a foreign alien terrorist is removed to his home soil, he is justly and righteously deported. Yeah, that's great. Absolutely great. But notice, the leftist media despises you and the truth. This is totally true. Totally true. Again, he follows this up. A Maryland mum was savagely raped and murdered by an illegal alien monster, but the leftist media and leftist politicians only want to talk about bringing foreign alien terrorists back to Maryland. Yes. This is exactly what they're about. Exactly what they're about. And recently, this clip has been going around, and my God, is it fun. My God, it's 10 minutes long, so I don't know if I watched the whole thing, but holy cow, it is so good because you can feel the anger, right? So Stephen Miller's obviously a very intelligent man, right? The average journalist is not a very intelligent person. And so Stephen Miller, but the average journalist has the advantage of having a series of loaded moral arguments with which they attack the person that they're dealing with. And usually people aren't actually that well prepared to deal with them. But Stephen Miller has been on this for decades now. And like I said, he's clearly a very, very intelligent man. And he does not respect them at all. And so we'll watch this together. It's just so good. I really wanted to show you this. So good.
Gentlemen, the return, guys, do you know the difference between a deportation order and a withholding order? Do you know the difference? Any of you, please. Do you? Well, we're not in the government. But
we're not in the government. No, but you're journalists. You're journalists. You're meant to know how this works. This is your job, isn't it? And yet none of you did any due diligence to figure out how the government works. So you've been talking about detainment orders and deportation orders, and you don't know the difference. I don't know the difference, but I'm not a journalist investigating this stuff. I'm not even an American, right? So fair enough, I don't know. Fair enough, I cop that, but am I really expected to? You are the journalists who are covering the White House and Trump's administration. It seems reasonable that you actually should know this. And I love that Miller is just, do you know? I'm going to give you a lesson, but I'm going to grill you. And they're like, oh, we're not in the government. Good thing too.
So you couldn't even spend 72 hours over the weekend learning the distinction, even though you've been writing and talking about it this whole time.
Stephen, we're not going anywhere. On the gold cards.
Just raise your hand. Does any of you know the difference between a deportation order and a withholding order?
My question is, how do you know that he's a member of MS-13? The White House has repeatedly said, according to intelligence...
According to our government and his government. In other words, his government has confirmed based on their own intelligence that he's a member of MS-13. First of all, do you dispute that he's an illegal alien?
What's that?
Do you dispute that he's an illegal alien?
No.
Okay. And do you dispute that as an illegal alien, we have the right to deport him?
Long pause. Like, this whole thing has just been great. Miller's just completely no. This is how I'm laying down the law here. Right? You don't know the difference between this thing. You've just exposed yourselves as morons. They're totally on the back foot. Now Miller's just going through the facts. Is he an illegal alien? Do we have the right to deport him? And you can see them being like, oh, God, I know I'm supposed to object, but I don't know what grounds on which I would object because he's already made me look like a fucking moron. And if I open my mouth, he's going to make me look like an even bigger moron. And so you've just got this lion in front of the sheep, just explaining to them, laying down the law. This is how things are. You are absolute clowns. And he just looks so angry. He's got this total look of disdain on his face. Like he is dealing with vermin. The way to exterminate the cockroaches is to berate them. Stephen Miller's is so good. It's so good.
Going through
He went through the legal process. So I want to be very... what I'm getting from this conversation, which is educational for me, is that not one person in the media knows the difference between a deportation order and a withholding order.
Correct.
Is that a fair statement? You're learning about this all for the first time right now? I guess so. Okay.
Look at those morons. Just silence. Yeah, he's literally just showing they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. It's so good.
So, the deportation order means the judge has said he must be deported from the country. He has no right to remain here any longer. He must be removed from the country. So, his only options are to be deported to his home country or another country. That's it. There's no other option. He doesn't get to stay here. He doesn't get to live here. He has no future here. He has no right to be here. He's an illegal alien.
God, I wish my government would say stuff like this. I wish someone in government in Britain would just be like, no, they're all gone. What are you talking about?
So when you keep saying return, because you've been spun up by the open borders advocates, you all seem to be operating under the illusion that he would be able to come to the United States and just continue to live here illegally. That's not an option available to him. His only choices in life are to live in El Salvador or to live in another country. That's it. There's no other option, legally or otherwise, because he came to our country illegally.
You can feel them wanting to say, but Mr. Miller, that's so mean. That's so mean. But what if the drug-dealing, rapist, murderer, MS-13 gang member wants to live illegally in America? Shouldn't we let him? No. No, we shouldn't. And frankly, I think he's getting off quite lightly by just being deported.
Do you understand that?
Stephen, can I ask, as a matter of policy, does the administration believe that immigration judges, because they're under
I love his expression, oh good, another stupid question.
DOJ, that their orders can be overruled by what the administration wants? Is that a general matter of policy?
Well, actually, so specifically, the Attorney General has authority to overrule the immigration courts, and that's actually by statute, yes.
They don't know! Do you think you can? Yes, because we appoint the Attorney General, and he's the guy in charge.
Stephen, on the gold card, the President and Secretary Lutnick have suggested they're lining up applicants already. How many people do you expect to be tagged to this program when the President announces it this week, if he actually announces it this week?
I'll let Secretary Lutnick provide that update, but I appreciate that.
The White House administration is going to deport 1 million undocumented people.
Much more than that. Much more.
I love it. Are you going to deport a million illegal aliens? Much more than that. Much more. If only Keir Starmer would come out and say it. You know, he could win me over.
Stephen, also, of the 10 alleged gang members that Secretary Rubio said were sent to El Salvador over the weekend, what sort of due process did they get as mandated by the Supreme Court?
Well, you're talking about the alien enemies?
Yes, the alien.
So first of all, a number of those are MS-13. So again, those are just standard removals of El Salvadorians to El Salvador. And without,
what evidence did you provide that they were MS-13?
Okay, so we seem to be confused about this. Illegal aliens from El Salvador, again, get deported to El Salvador. Do you all appreciate that like tens of thousands of El Salvadorians have been deported to El Salvador? You seem to be under the impression that El Salvadorians living in our country illegally just get to stay here. They don't. They get arrested and deported. Then the fact that they're MS-13 just puts an extra priority on our deporting them. But we would deport someone to El Salvador regardless of whether or not they were MS-13 if they were here illegally. That's just an extra, because of the priority on public safety threats, we're emphasizing the removals of gang members, in this case, foreign terrorist organization gang members.
And you would have to be a maniac to oppose that, right? You would have to be a maniac. You would have to be someone who didn't think that the house was going to get raided and they were going to get their heads cut off by MS-13, right? You would have to be someone who thought that fundamentally this was kind of made up and that it wasn't a real thing, despite the trail of bodies that they've left behind them.
But as to your other question, they went through all of the due process, as you would call it, that is required by law. So, what I find so mystifying is that I've been talking to you all for a very long time. I legitimately, going back years actually, in my entire professional life, I've never received this many questions from the media about an American who was raped or murdered by an illegal alien. Like, legitimately never. And all of you who are enjoying your lives and doing quite well, if you had children and you were living near any of these people, you would move away immediately. You would call the police immediately. You would call us and ask us to make you and your family safer immediately. And you thank your lucky stars every night that you have enough means and enough money not to live in communities where, say, illegal alien pedophiles offend and reoffend and keep reoffending and keep reoffending.
And that's exactly the point. To the journalists, this is all an abstract discussion about the concept of rights and due process. It's never about protecting the people who potentially could be killed, knowing that they could be killed because there is a history of people who have been killed. What about the human rights of the victims? That never comes up. The victims, as soon as they're dead, well, that's gone. That's not a human anymore. We don't need to worry about their human rights. But the human rights of the criminals who are still here and murdering people, those things are front and centre in our concerns. Now, of course, in reality, it's because they're communists and they just want to destroy the United States. But we have to play this shell game. We have to jump through the hoops. You know how it is.
Question there, but for the grace of God, go I. The Biden administration apprehended 2 illegal aliens from Venezuela. They were trained to Aragua. I mean, a lot more than 2, but I'm telling you 2. And they decided they were entitled to an enormous amount of due process. And they didn't feel they had enough evidence to just deport them right away. So they put them on a monitoring system known as supervised release. You're familiar with this case. But a few weeks later, they kidnapped a young girl named Jocelyn Nungary, who was 12 years old at the time. I'm sure you've seen pictures of her. Just the most perfect girl you could possibly imagine. And her mother loved her very much. She was tied up, savagely beaten, stripped naked, tortured to death, murdered. Her body was dumped into a lake.
Hard to believe such people exist, isn't it? Hard to believe. And yet, this is hardly an isolated story. They are genuine monsters, and they keep doing monstrous things.
So, she didn't get any due process, but I'll tell you who did, are the 2 illegal aliens from Venezuela.
And why should they? Why should illegal aliens get American due process? Like, how can they possibly say that it applies to them, not being American citizens?
Who stole her forever. And there's stories like that all over the country. We just arrested a pedophile illegal alien who's being shielded by a sanctuary city, who's been charged in 20 sex crimes against children. None of you, any of you have had the chance to spend time with victims' families, whose children have been raped, or whose wives have been raped and murdered. But if that doesn't break your heart, nothing will. And
nothing will break their hearts. The only time their hearts break is when they see these murderers and rapists locked up in cells, and they say, "Oh God, look at them, the poor dolls. You know, they surely don't deserve this." And it's like, no, they deserve so much worse. We're just very, very humane.
I know that we have some people, like Taylor Lorenz, who fantasize about assassinations and things like that. But in the civilized society, the power of the state is used to keep innocent people alive and to keep innocent women and children from being hurt. This administration is never going to apologize for using the power of the state to keep men, women, and children from being savagely murdered and defeated.
God, that's so, I mean, it's so simple, and yet it's so counter to what is actually happening in the West and up until now in America. It's so straightforward. And the fact that Stephen Miller has to come out and justify keeping women and children and men safe is so bizarre. Like, it'll be a historical aberration in a couple of 100 years' time. They won't believe that this had to happen.
If we release known and suspected MS-13 and trained Iragua, and then there's another Jocelyn Hungry, then whose responsibility is that going to be? Do you think that we're going to sit around wringing our hands, wondering if, maybe we should, release this person, give them a little bit of extra time, give them a little bit extra chance to plead their case, and then what? They kidnap somebody, they slit their throat, they shoot them in the head, and we say, well, at least the illegal alien got due process. They're here illegally. The only place that they deserve to go is to some country other than our country. And it's not a statistic. These are real lives. These are real families. There's whole neighborhoods in Los Angeles controlled by illegal alien Mexican street gangs. Entire neighborhoods where you have to live in fear because of individuals here illegally engaged in extortion and crime.
I love that he's just lecturing them now. Now it's just a moral lecture at these absolute degenerate media, just absolute cockroaches. And Stephen is just angry. He's just like, I'm sick of this. I'm absolutely sick of it.
Not to mention the fentanyl. You have cartels that have functional control over the entire northern territory in Mexico who are pumping fentanyl, lacing our drugs with this chemical. Children are ending up dead. They're going out to a weekend party. They think they're taking something safe, and they get a heart attack and they die by the thousands. So we're not going to apologize.
I mean, this is just so many lives ruined. So many lives ruined. And yet Stephen Miller has to come out and make the case that maybe, guys, stopping this is good. It's like, that. Why are we having this conversation? Why are we having this conversation? Obviously stopping this is good. Who are these people? Who are these idiot journalists who are making the case for wanton rapine and slaughter?
As for doing something about that, and I just wish we lived in a country where the media gave to 1/10 a damn as much about Americans who were murdered and brutalized and savagely killed, beaten to death, as they did about whether illegal aliens that we all agree are illegal aliens should get 1 million days in court and 1 million trials and 1 million this and 1 million that. There's 15 million illegal aliens that violently enter the country. If every one of them got the trial that you're asking for, it would take us centuries to remove them. Centuries. We've been talking about this in 300-400 years. Their great-great-great-grandchildren would be the ones representing them in court. That's how long it would take. Illegal aliens who come to our country have to be removed, and they have to be removed quickly, and that is an essential component of having something that we like to call a country.
I mean, he goes on for a couple more minutes, but goddamn, man, just tell them how it is, bro. Just tell them how it is. I am totally on board with the billions must leave meme. No, if you're in a country illegally, you're at fault. You ought not to have done that. You ought to be sent home swiftly and securely and as soon as possible. Right? You do not have a right to be a parasite on someone else's country. And if I went to a country illegally, I would expect the same treatment, which is why whenever I go to a country, I go there legally. I apply for a visa. I apply to visit. I've never moved to another country, but if I was going to, I would do it legally because I understand and I respect those people. I don't just think, right, I'm going to just break in and piggyback off their hard work. No. And it's not acceptable when it's done the other way. So, no, love Stephen Miller. Love what he's doing. Love when he is just... I mean, this is great. If it was up to Stephen Miller, there'd only be 100 million people in the country. Love what he's doing. He is exactly the right guy for the right job at the right time, doing the right thing. Keep on going.